Storm continues to brew over the controversial Supreme Court ruling that gave lesbians, gays, bisexual and queer persons some rights besides religious leaders faulting the Supreme Court judges over the issue. A section of members of parliament have also added their voice to that matter, calling for the removal of the judges who rendered that ruling. But as our reporter Grace Nganga now explains, it will be a tall order for the members of parliament to make good their threat, as removing a judge from office is no walk in the park.
It's a controversial issue that is fast gaining currency in the country. The latest ruling by Supreme Court judges allowing LGBTQ persons to enjoy the freedom of association has evoked emotions, with religious leaders saying the ruling was wrong. They said it was akin to allowing robbers the freedom to associate or form an organization. And today, MPs too have come out to speak about the issue. The MPs have threatened to push for the removal of the top judges who gave the ruling.
The Supreme Court goes ahead and says that the association of these criminals still has to be registered. What are you talking about? What a contradiction. It's like telling convicts, murder convicts, you can register murderers association. What will stop terrorists from approaching the NGO's board to say we also want to be registered? It will stop rapists from saying we can now be registered.
The legislators say they will give the judges a second chance as they head back to the Supreme Court for a judicial review of the ruling. The MPs are angry that the ruling will promote immorality and some unethical practices.
3 judges of the Supreme Court decided so. 2 dissented and 2 were not there. We are going back to that Supreme Court with the religious organizations, the churches and everybody, and we are going to request the Supreme Court in their full bench of 7 in number to review that position.
There will be no LGBTQ in Kenya. Homosexuality or gay as it is just a symbol term meaning really sodomy. There is no any other language beyond that.
We wish to reiterate that the judicial decision goes largely against the Kenya's moral, religion and cultural fabric that binds the country.
Just last week, Kaluma said he intends to table a bill before the National Assembly to increase the severity of the penalty for those engaging in illegal, immoral practices such as homosexuality and lesbianism.
But I want to tell the people imagining we can withdraw, because I've been receiving threats telling me Kaluma withdraw from that enterprise. Tell them to study my history with matters concerning the family. Yeah. We brought down the slave queens the other day, just straight away from here, somewhere around Arboretum. They have a building bigger than Parliament with their flag flying there. And this is happening despite the fact that it is criminal to engage in that enterprise they have officers for in Kenya. So we want to deal in our bill with those people who are promoting, with those people who are aiding and abetting, the people running those sacred places for such purposes. We want even to sanction law enforcement agencies.
In its ruling, the Supreme Court said that the decision to deny LGBTQ members the right to register as an NGO, despite homosexuality being illegal in the nation, was discriminatory. Whereas MPs have vowed to remove the top judges, it will be a tall order. For a judge to be ejected from office, a petition must be filed, followed by a tribunal to probe the grounds in which the removal of the judges is being sought. The removal of the judge can only be initiated by the Judicial Service Commission after it is convinced of adequate grounds for the removal. This includes abuse of office, gross misconduct, among others. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
Well, that's a good place to have our first discussion for tonight. And speaking to me tonight is Anglican Bishop Jackson Olesepit, and also joining us live is Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome. He's a member of the Jamia Mosque Committee. And of course, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know this is a hot topic that perhaps a lot of people are shying away from discussing, but we can't deny that on the dinner table, on the lunch table, on the breakfast table, this is becoming a hot topic and people are increasingly discussing it. So I want to get your initial sentiment on the fact that the Supreme Court okayed this group to be registered as a non-governmental organization. I'll begin with you, Bishop Sapit, on this.
Thank you so much, and we thank God for every one of us, and good evening to all Kenyans who are viewing us tonight. My first sentiment to the decision made by the Supreme Court judges is it is a wrong decision. It's a wrong decision because in our constitution, homosexuality is defined as a criminal act, and therefore registering an organization whose behavior result in homosexuality or is defined by homosexuality defeat the very law that has criminalized it in our nation. And therefore the basic question I want to ask is, what are the articles of association of this NGO that was registered? Because anybody registering an NGO must have clear articles of association, why they want to associate, why they want to be known as an entity. And therefore mine is, how can we register an entity that we know they will end in a criminal act? It will be like, I want to join those who spoke before me, that will it also, now will the Supreme Court begin to register bandits groups because they know they also want to associate as bandits? Will they begin to register terrorists because they want to associate as a group and an association by using that clause that people have freedom of association? And therefore the question to ask is, what have become of our judiciary in the interpretation of the law, and them whom are being looked by Kenyans as custodian of the judicial system, and the ones to uphold the rule of law and ensure that any criminal act does not happen in our land, and they are the ones who are now okaying it to happen. That's my basic question. If you register, for example, a football club, everybody knows they are going to play football. If you register, for example, an enterprise, a business enterprise, everybody knows it's going to do business. But what business is LGBTQ going to do when they are registered as an association, other than doing the criminal act, what the Bible says and what the law says it is criminal to act or to associate in a homosexual relationship?
I'm coming back to you, Bishop, but let me get Sheikh's initial views on this. Sheikh, what is your initial view on the fact that the Supreme Court okayed the registration of this group and give them a designation while we are at it?
Thank you very much for that question. Let me begin by saying this, and I want to join my colleague Archbishop Olesapit in condemning that decision. The decision is wrong. I know somebody can argue that freedom of association is guaranteed by our constitution, but it is known all over the world that there is no absolute freedom. Every freedom and every right has a limitation. And registering an organization whose objectives is to advance something that is criminalized by our constitution, not allowed by our religious practices, it is totally wrong, totally wrong. Because
Sheikh, we have a small challenge with the sound. I'll ask you, gentlemen.